Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. This is the program where we, frankly, get behind the spreadsheets and get out of that whole model and really understand what drives business value. And usually that involves people and the stories and the insights that come from those conversations. I'm Dave Bookbinder. I'm known as business valuation expert and best-selling author, and I thank you for joining me today. So, most companies want higher productivity from their workforce, but they still rely on compensation models that reward time instead of results. My guest today is Michael Fortenberry. He's the co-founder of Protiv, and he's going to be helping us to understand how performance-based compensation and incentive pay models can align with employee motivation and business outcomes, which will also improve productivity, accountability, profitability, and all that stuff that drives business value. Michael, welcome to Behind the Numbers.
Dave, that was one of the best overviews of what we tried to do solving and building Protiv. So exceptional job right there. I'm super glad to be here.
Well, thank you for that. I truly appreciate that. That's actually something I'm experimenting with. So I appreciate the feedback. So, given that it was such a fantastic introduction, is there anything I missed that you'd like to share with the audience about who you are?
You know, I like doing what we do here. I think because I had some success and plenty of failures too along my business journey, going from the military and grew up in the country, into the big city, live in New York City now, and have built and sold a couple of companies. It's to be able to help in our world contractors primarily develop company culture, align their teams to what it means to be successful. I find myself playing business coach sometimes, on the side. And it's been so much fun building Protiv because of the impact it has on the organizations that have been using it and the people who work in those organizations.
Thank you. So let's jump in. And we were talking before we went on air here. I'm not going to get into any of that, but this is a super germane conversation. And most companies still pay people for their time rather than results. When you first started building Protiv, what was the moment where you looked at how compensation worked in the real world and thought to yourself, the system doesn't work, it's broken?
Yeah, there's a few parts to this kind of origin story. And we built this inside of our construction company. The origin of Protiv came out of a problem. Like many software companies, many technologies, et cetera, we had a problem. And in our case, I had a project that was very sensitive to both time and quality. And I had a workforce that was, hey, boss, can I get a raise? And if I just give Bob a raise, Bob doesn't work differently. And my equation on which I pay Bob is based on times. If Bob wants to make more money, he works more hours, which pushes into OT, et cetera. And he doesn't really want to work any harder than he has to. So there's no incentive for him to really bring it every day. So I'm kind of in this position of they want to make more money, but I've got a different need. I need to compress my time and I need to improve my quality and ensure that I'm on schedule, doing great work. How do I combine those two things? And it came to a head on a project, just we're hanging cabinets, and it was about 10 hours worth of labor built into our budget to hang these kitchen cabinets in this renovation work we were doing. I really needed it done in one day. Like I really needed the guy to get there in the morning and be done at the end of the day. From a scheduling standpoint, it just worked a lot better unless it bled into the next day. About $40 an hour in our budget for this, $400. I just go to the carpenters. I say, look, I will give you the $400 if you but just finish in one day. Turns out they could do it in 6.5 hours. And at some point, am I a bad manager? What are we doing wrong here? And the difference was it wasn't their money before. It was my money. And if you want to build an incentive plan that drives people, the first thing is make sure it's their money that you're talking about because they don't care about your money. Sorry, Dave, they just don't. And so listening, sorry, your employees don't care a lot about your money, but they do care about their own money and they're actually accountable to their peers, their coworkers. There's an accountability there when it comes to money. So push that ownership of your budget of whatever that operational cost is to produce your widget or execute your service. If you push that cost to where they feel ownership of it, like it's theirs, they will treat it different. And I joke that you hire somebody usually to do a task. You brought this up a minute ago. Like I want to have you dig a ditch, or I want to have you cut, hair, or I want to have you code something. I'm hiring you to do this task, and I'm paying you for your back. Like your back does this work? What I also get, like a gift with purchase, is a free brain, right? You get a free brain with every employee. Congratulations. Now, okay, some are better than others, but you do get one. And so what do you want to do with it? Do you want to get them to bring it to work with them, get them to use it, and facilitate how we get better as an organization to think and align themselves with our objectives? If I can get them to do that by creating the right alignment and incentives, you get a much different performing organization.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was thinking as you were saying that in context with like my clients, for example, when I send them an engagement letter for evaluation engagement, the fee in their mind reflects just the time that it takes to complete the task at hand. But to your point, there's the 30 years of training and education and experience that's going to go into getting them the proper deliverable. So there's
No,
more to the story.
it is. And what I've found is that you will find, I found this, and you will find that you have a workforce that has more skills and talents than what you get from them today. You've got to give them a reason to want to do that. And incentives, look, incentives work. And there's so many great quotes out there. Just go Google, great business leader quotes on incentives. And you'll get everything from Charlie Munger to Steve Jobs talking about how incentives are what actually move the world. It's a guy named Dr. Steve Landsberg out of, I think it was University of Rhode Island or Rochester, one of those. And he basically said that people respond to incentives. 4 words. That is all of economics in 4 words. Like, it's a powerful thing. Incentives are why we do what we do. And was the buildup of lactic acid that makes you slow down in your muscles because you're getting tired, or running faster because there's a lion chasing you. It's an incentive, right? And so let's find a way to align those things. We as business owners have an incentive around getting a return on our capital investments, et cetera. Structural things are what makes a business profitable, allows us to provide jobs for our employees, provide for our families. How do I get my team to come to work thinking the same thing, looking at the world the same way?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm just going to piggyback on that. I know you sort of asked that question rhetorically, but I'm going to ask you to unpack that and maybe explain how Protiv actually links the compensation to performance.
What we do, and we're a unique platform, mostly we focus on hourly workers, to be fair. Hourly pay it's a fundamentally flawed model because it's based on time, and time is not an equation on which we want to. I want to base compensation on production, quality, teamwork, communication, safety. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff I want to base production on and base compensation on. Time is not in that equation, really. That's a flawed structure, but we're stuck with it. Okay, it's going back to, for lots of reasons, 100 plus years. Now, what we do is we are taking labor budgets in our world and showing those to team members in the field and saying, look, this is how much money we have to accomplish this task. Paint this house, rewire this office building, put siding on a skyscraper, whatever that task is that we bid as a contractor. If we can finish it for less than that and hit our quality standards, both, and follow other company policies, et cetera, then the money we save, we're happy to share that with the team that did the work. So let's find a way to be more efficient. And we create an automatic alignment between what we need and what they need. It's interesting, this is working when your crew is upset with management because management makes a mistake that costs them money. Dave, I put you in charge of procurement, and you order the wrong stone for a patio, and now the crew doing the work is like, Dave, what the hell? You ordered the wrong stuff. I'm not going to get a bonus now, man. You need to get your act together because now we're late. Good. I want my team in the field, and I want my management organization. I want my logistics team and my estimators, everybody on the same page about how do we make money. Funny part is when they come in your office and they're mad at you and you say, no, nobody's getting a bonus on this. I'm not making a profit on it because I screwed up. You're not getting a bonus now because I screwed up. We aren't doing well. That's a whole different type of language to use than what we've traditionally done in how we talk with our teams.
Yeah, and what you're talking about there is you mentioned the word alignment, but the other A word that I was thinking there too was you've got this accountability loop that's baked into that conversation.
Yeah, I like accountability, and I like cross-team member accountability. So it's funny about teams when they're working and you're not standing there watching them, they will say things to each other we're not allowed to say to them. Like if you're looking over and you're like, Mike, come on, you're not doing that right. Let's go. You're going to cost our team bonus. You might say it that way once. The way you will say that to me the second time is very different because it's like at a certain point, it's your money. I'm now messing with your money. And the elevation of those conversations can get pretty dramatic. We think those are good things. You need to unpack that in your organization and get an organizational structure where everybody's on that page and on that agenda. But you'll have people quit because they don't like the peer pressure. My teammates are giving me a hard time because I carry one 2x4 or because I can't, operate this machine very efficiently or whatever the task is that you're just not very good at. So maybe it's not the right place. Find something else to do.
Yeah. So we talk about alignment, we talk about accountability, and underpinning all that is this feeling of ownership. What other behavioral changes do you typically see in teams when you make the shift for paying for results?
One of the biggest is the way they communicate. So information right now, what's that quote? The biggest problem with communication is the illusion it's taking place. So I think there's an illusion today that we're actually communicating well. People hear us when we say, hey, I need this job done on Friday, or they hear us when we say, make sure you do that correctly, or they hear us when we say, let's all work as a team today. That's nice, but sometimes that's just bouncing off of their eardrums and back out into the universe instead of being absorbed because it doesn't mean anything to them. Once it actually means something, the communication takes on a different life because communication now it also starts to operate bidirectionally, right? And now you can start to absorb information moving up the organization. We ask question all the time, how can we get better? Now I've got a team of people that is more interested in answering that question. I'll go to a job site. We used to do this more often. I don't do as much anymore, but go to the job site, ask the crew if they're making any money on this job. Right. So if you're in construction, you'll kind of understand how funny that is. You go to your job site and you ask your team doing the work, or imagine a manufacturing facility or anywhere else. You go to your team and say, is this a money-making day for us, for you? Now, if they're paid by the hour, they go, well, I'm getting paid, right? But eventually they learn to answer that question. When your team doing the work can answer the question of whether or not we're making any money today, then you're winning. You got to coach them and teach them into this. They don't come always equipped with all of that language and all of that training. Some of them are going to be better at it than others. But you start driving in financial literacy to your organization because now they've got a reason to care about it. You start communicating about budgets, gross profit numbers, cost of goods sold, all these things that usually just sit within the top, 10% of an organization. Push that information down because now they have a reason to care. So they have a reason to listen. They have a reason to absorb what you're telling.
Yeah. In your experience, what percentage of companies are actually being that transparent and using this kind of comp structure as well?
Oh, it's fractionally, almost invisible as a percentage still. I think that's when we first built Protiv, we built it because we couldn't buy one. We went to the market and you go to Google and you say, I want to buy an incentive comp management system for hourly workers, and Google gives you zero, sorry, there's no response, kind of thing. And there weren't systems, nobody built systems to manage this kind of thing before. And which is funny because half of the US workforce is paid by the hour. And there's just not a great model for aligning that compensation system to performance. So we had to build it.
Yeah, here's maybe an opportunity to change some hearts and minds of listeners out there in the audience because comp is really often thought of as a finance function, but it's one of the many inputs that impact the culture of an organization. So tell the
My
leaders
favorite
out there
word.
who are listening how they should think about the relationship between the pay structures and the actual culture they're trying to create.
Yeah. So compensation is a vehicle for you to have conversations about all this culture stuff, right? I mean, it's because it's part of the equation, but there are a lot of employees who just their pay is not the only thing that matters to them. In fact, really in an evolved corporate culture, I would suggest that compensation is a beginning. It's a stake in the ground that I think you need to get right. But then from that, you need to build rewards and incentives that are very dialed in. The better you know your team, the more you can do this. There may be employees who flexible time off, gold stars, different things drive their upper levels of their performance. So you got to learn that about your team. Some people start with the gold star, the points, all that is their kind of rewards program. I think that's a mistake for hourly workers. I think you have to start with compensation and make sure they're making more money. But once you have that, then move your engagement with your team around compensation into things that are more aligned to them as a person, which means you have to get to know your team, which is a big part of what I preach all the time on company culture. Foundationally, there are some things. One is it needs to be unique and authentic to you as a leader. If you try and build a culture that is very metric driven, but you're a creative mind, that's probably not going to create alignment. If you're a very process oriented person, and then you say, oh no, we're family first, probably not going to stick. So you need to have a company culture that is very aligned to who you are, that's true and authentic to you. But then you also have the communication. I think is a obvious part of it. But probably the part people don't understand is, what does it mean to invest in your people? What does that mean? And I have a guy right now working for me who really actually wants to have his own competitive barbecue team. And I really want to help him get there. I do. I want him to leave my company and go start his competitive barbecue team, even though he's a really good salesperson and it probably hurt my company to do that. I don't know why I think that's going to help me later. I guess I like barbecue. It's good. But I find that if my crew, my team, my people feel that I care more about where they want to go than I do about what they're doing for me, they will give me everything. They will stay there late and get it done. They will do anything. That's a Zig Ziglar kind of construct he used to have. You help people get enough of what they want, you can get anything you want concept. Perfect. Great. Use that however it's described. But help your team achieve their dreams, whatever those things are, and you will win. I fully believe that. But you got to listen to them. You got to communicate with them. You got to talk to them. Help them grow. Growth is critical. Every organization grows or dies. Every entity on earth. Just that is universally true of all living things. You grow or you die. So what are you going to do with your relationship with your people? What are you going to do with them as human beings? It's a lot more fun way, Dave, to build a business based on the humanity and the engagement of them as people than it is to look at them as numbers on your spreadsheet.
Well, you're singing my song, brother. That's the whole premise behind the new ROI, return on individuals, which I write about and speak about all the time, and connecting the dots between the culture and leadership and what that means to enterprise value. So thanks for putting an exclamation mark on that.
You know that this most singly impactful thing you can do to drive profitability in a business is culture. I think it is 600 times more profitable, like 602 times more profitable, like an insane number, versus companies that are not culturally aligned. Good culture to bad culture is more impactful to how you will perform financially than any other thing you do. I've always believed there's only two things it takes to really build, at least in the trades, a good construction company or a trade contract. You have to master your numbers. You do have to have your financial house in order. And you have to build a culture.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't even think you have to be a good plumber. You just have to build a culture and master your numbers. Go do that.
Amen. Well said. It really does come down to that. And there's a ton of empirical data that I've shared many times on those particular topics. Thank you again for that. One of the things I want to make sure that we talk about here is when we discuss this construct around the accountability. And you were talking about some of the conversations that may happen on this job site between employees. How do you make sure that there's a balance between we'll call it the appropriate level of alignment and accountability and unhealthy competition?
So unhealthy competition is a funny term, right? I don't know. What level does that occur at? Because I like competition. Now, it's also, to be honest, men and women are different. So you have to understand your workforce. Competition for men, I'm not sure there is a ceiling on where it gets. It's go, right? Go. We all want to go winning school. Men like scoreboards and rankings, and those are all things. You understand your workforce because men and women are different. But I find that the accountability part, I have seen it play out where it goes too far, where I've shown up at a job site and I'm like, where's Bob? And they're like, oh, we fired Bob. I'm like, what? What? Okay, y'all can't fire Bob. Like that's where now I'm gonna have to go and ring that bell and solve that problem. But That maybe it rotated a little too far, because Bob was slow, and they figured that out within about 30 minutes on the job, and they're like, yeah, it's not going to work, Bob, you got to go, because they own that labor budget, man. This is their job. This is our crew. We're executing here. And I think what you're trying to do is drive that level of enthusiasm without quite letting that go too far. But there is an accountability to each other when we're talking about our income, right? If I'm accountable to my team to have the right materials there so that they can make more money, so they can take care of their families, take that to heart, right? And I think as an owner, you've got to feel that accountability to your people. And they grasp that when you believe it and when you own it and when you show it. You will not have to say that out loud. They will feel that from you when you do it. You take accountability for what you need to do to help them win as an owner. I actually, in some ways, I'm less worried about their taking accountability of their part, because if I do my part, I find that they will do theirs. And I think so. It starts with you. It starts with you as the leader taking your part of it. That means you got to estimate well, you got good equipment for your team. You've got to create an environment in which they can be successful. You've got to put those things up there, show them what the standard is, be willing to get in there and do it with them, and let them, the right people are going to be attracted to that. And the people you don't want are going to move away from that. So I find that if you as a leader can plant that flag in the right way and take personal accountability, you'll get the result from your team that you're looking for.
Yeah, and those team members who are aligned and accountable are going to be the evangelists for your new hires.
They will go get you more people like that because they want to work with people like that. It is a fascinating thing how we want to work with other winners. You start hiring winners, they want to work with more winners. Raise your hiring bar, raise your wage rates, go get the best people you can, and then put them on a performance environment where they make more money in this uncapped world where the better we do, the better we all do. Don't put ceilings on it. Don't be greedy about it. Everybody should be winning here. And when you structure these things the right way, better is just better. So I really do believe that there's this unlocking of human potential when you create that alignment and you create that accountability that you're describing.
Yeah, for sure. From a leadership standpoint, are there certain metrics the company should focus on if they want to make sure that compensation systems are actually driving better performance?
So you got to start with where your baseline at today. And we're a big fan of measuring before, after. We do that all the time with our clients because you've got an output level today, and it probably varies across different products you may serve, et cetera, things. But you really need to understand where am I at on GP and where am I at on my production, my COGS, et cetera, to have a baseline. And then you start to apply incentives to things that matter in your particular world. Every business is a little bit different. So I'll stick with the ones I know best. In the trades, that means I've got a budget for this work. I'm operating at 34% gross profit today or 51% gross profit, wherever my margin is today. Can I incentivize a certain behavior and move that number? If I may measure quality and defects. I may say, how much rework do I have? Right now I've got 4% rework. Can I get that to 3? It's all of those kind of granular metrics are critical. We look at production hours. How many hours of work do I produce relative to what I bid versus what did I pay for? We produced hours measures that we look at. Revenue per hour. We actually have a lot of tracking on revenue per hour for companies where we've got a revenue number and we've got original budgets and how much. When I put a scoreboard up on a TV screen that says this is who on the company is creating the most revenue per hour and pays to be a winner. Do not be at the bottom of that list, right? And so because the people who make me the most money per hour, I really want to take care of. And sometimes it's dramatic. Bob's creating $375 an hour. Sam creates $190 an hour. Sam, we're going to put you to work with Bob for a while, and see if we can elevate this.
Yeah, those leaderboards are a very interesting phenomenon, and I know they can cut both ways inside an organization.
They work. I'm going to say that they work with dudes. They work with men. To be frank, I've worked now in the trades for a lot of years, and I don't know how this would work if I had 75% female workforce. Maybe it performs differently there, but I do know that with men in the construction and trade space, leaderboards are the bomb.
Super
You
competitive.
just get people acting different. And it's funny, even if you're at the bottom of that list, it's like I've seen them ragging on each other, like they give each other a hard time. Like, that's all right, I'll show you. I got this next month. It's like guys are just different like that. And I have found that to be a very powerful tool in our world. I think there may
Yeah.
be other tools you want to use in other spaces.
Before we wrap, I want to ask you to look into your crystal ball, and I recognize that this question may not be applicable for the trades per se, but I want to talk a little bit about technology and maybe AI in particular, how those influences are continuing to shape how people work and how they show up.
Yes.
Where do you see compensation innovation heading over the next decade with that as the backdrop of technology?
Yeah. So I think that if you're in school right now and you're thinking, oh, I think I want to go be a lawyer. I think I want to go be a finance or accounting or whatever. You should stop right now and go to trade school because your careers are going away. So that's my first thesis. And something Elon Musk said recently, he's like, it's a lot easier for me to put a rocket into space than it is to get a robot to tie his shoes. The robotics world is so far behind AI that anything that is with your hands is very protected right now from disruption. And that does not mean your keyboard. So sorry, for all of you thinking, oh, good, I type. No, it's not. That's not going to save you. My daughter just finishing up vet school right now, and her career as a veterinary practitioner is going to be radically different because AI is going to do most of the diagnostics and she's going to do most of the sewing. It's just an evolution to trades that is going to, I think it's going to bring talent into the trades. I think people are going to stop going to law school and they're going to start becoming master plumbers. And I think we're going to be better off for it. We're going to have more people, more really intelligent people flowing into the trades than we've ever had before because it's going to be where the jobs are. And it's amazing because when you bring higher levels of financial literacy and talent to a trade contracting business, you can build a big contracting business. So the big guys are financially oriented. They've got MBAs running around and they make a lot of money. So, you learn to grow out of your own shadow as a contractor. On the AI front, we're seeing AI serve to facilitate things like scheduling, I think is coming soon. Right now, I've got a whole bunch of people and I need to assign them to a whole bunch of different tasks. How do I decide who goes where? AI can look at historic performance at deeper levels and get people aligned to the right job task on any given day more efficiently than humans can. Probably one of the biggest opportunities, something that we're going to build in particular, is right now labor is the biggest variable cost in construction. It's the biggest challenge in construction because we sometimes, not sometimes, we often bid labor emotionally, whereas materials and G&A profit is generally pretty fixed in our pricing structure. Labor can be all over the board. It's the one we're least certain about. It's the one that's most variable. However, with AI, I can look at large data sets, especially in a performance pay environment, and know what my historic cost was to produce a certain type of work. I can look at what the industry is willing to pay for that, and I can look at what I need to pay for that labor. And between those 3 points of the triangle, I can align where my bid should be on labor. Because if I know that in Iowa, in this metro area in Iowa, I am paying X dollars an hour to get this painting work done, and I know that I can charge this much for it, and I know that this is my margin that I'm looking for, I can start to use AI to set labor costs and be much more accurate. That's very, very, very. It's almost impossible to do right now manually, and I'm going to be able to do that with data. And I think that will probably move 10 to 15 points of benefit to gross profit within the construction space. It's the biggest untapped opportunity to control construction costs overall, is to control labor costs.
Interesting perspectives. And I really appreciate you sharing that with us today. Before I let you go, tell the audience how they can find you and maybe learn more
Sure.
about you and how they can work with you.
Yeah, LinkedIn, there's not that many Michael Fortenberrys out there, so pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. But Michael at Protiv.com. Someone just wants to email me, ask me, whatever. Just want to talk about, you got a contracting business trying to grow it. You've got a environment for incentive comp and you got questions about it, Michael at Protiv, Protiv.com. Just email me. Happy to help. I like doing it.
Awesome. Thanks. And gang, be sure to let Michael know that you heard him on Behind the Numbers.
I guess I'll make one plug out there too for everybody who's in our age group, Dave, is get out there and be active. And I changed my outlook on career and life and everything when I dropped 35 pounds and started running every day and working out and eating better. And I think if there's anything else you can do as a leader is go out there, get yourself in shape, eat better, set a standard for your team, better for you, better for your family. Sorry for my diverge there at the end, but I was just thinking about it. Like, you want to find me out of the Spartan race. So that's a good place to find me.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a very important message for everybody too, for so many reasons.
Business and life, man. Both parts, right? Business and life.
That's it. They're all connected. Michael, thanks so much for joining us today on Behind the Numbers. Really appreciate it, man.
Dave, I appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk again.
Thank you. And thank you, gang, out there so much for your support of this program. Really, truly appreciate it. Until next time, I am Dave Bookbinder, reminding you that the numbers tell the story, but the people bring it to life. Take care, gang. We'll see you next time.